Well, good evening and Wanshahao. Tonight our topic is developing wisdom through listening, contemplating, and familiarization. So, today and tomorrow and one more days, I think. These 3 days are not teaching, but just talk. So usually, when I give talks, there's no recitations or nothing, and just talk. And yes, and these 3 topics is most crucial for whatever either we are interested to practice Buddhism or just want to know, or in the sense of increasing your own knowledge. It is necessary to apply this listening, proper listening, and proper contemplating, and proper familiarizations. So therefore, it is most important to talk about this subject. Today's topic is, in fact, more or less mostly related or connected with what should I say? Buddhist practice or Buddhist studies. Then the rest of my talks, such as 3 kinds of laziness and whatever next, I forgot the topic. So these are both of the coming talks are not related, not necessarily related with the Buddhist practice. What I mean is, not related only with the Buddhist subject, but also, of course. Dalai Lama expressed so strongly and continuously in order to talk about that we all need to understand Buddhist way of thinking, Buddhist views and tenets as deep as possible. And on top of that, also the way of the Buddhist practice. What I'm talking about is Dalai Lama differentiate from the contents of Buddhist literature. There are 3, right? Number 1 is Buddhist, what should I say? Science. Number 2 is Buddhist view and tenets. Number 3rd is Buddhist practice. So this kind of making division or differentiate is very, very crucial and very, very important. From these 3 subjects, Dalai Lama says, out of Buddhist science, or with the Buddhist science context of Buddhist science and Buddhist view and tenets can help major population in the world. But with Buddhism, but the Buddhist practice can only be helped those who are interested in Buddhism. Dalai Lama gives quite a number of teachings, including empowerments in the Western societies. But whenever he gives, he had some sort of awkward feeling because Western countries are not Buddhist country, and if I may say, in a strange country, to talk and to conduct some Buddhist things is, according to his way of thinking, is improper. Just like example, if some Christianity organization come to the Tibet, and within the Tibetan village, they build big church. What we Tibetans will feel about this? Of course, we honor say non-Tibetan will be welcome to build this big church. So likewise, in the Western society. Once he was in France, I don't know exactly the place, but never mind. And however, some people from certain organization got audience and asked for audience, and they informed Dalai Lama their project. The project is that they are going to build a huge Buddhist monastery or some sort of these things. And his Dalai Lama rejected immediately. Please don't do that. So here, this country is not a Buddhist country. If you really want to support Buddhist study, Buddhist practice, so then please build such an institution in a Buddhist country, somewhere else in a Buddhist country. So they followed, and later they built in Thailand. They built some institution in Thailand. Mm-hmm. For example, you who has Bodhisattva vows and remain in Theravada monastery or Theravada surround, stay more than 6 days. So now in bracket, during the 6 days, if you insisted some Theravadins to follow to the Mahayana, so it is defilement. So you are not permitted to stay there or to insist there more than 6 days. After 6 days, you need to be disappeared from that place. Otherwise, the Theravadin will be very annoying. And so therefore, for us, it's sometimes a bit difficult position. And we also need to know exactly what we are doing and which way we are doing. Especially if you are living in a, if I may say, strange country. Those never practice Buddhism very widely. So therefore we need to take care of that. But some Westerners or even Chinese friends who are only interested in whatever other religion than Tibetan Buddhism or the Buddhism general, so we need to be taken care. But those who are really interested, then of course it is for our responsibility to support them, to give information, because they are already interested in Buddhist practice. So why shouldn't we give them information thoroughly? But we are not trying to drag them from the other religion into the Buddhist community. So that means Buddha gave us certain clear instructions that we shouldn't force and other people, those who are not interested in Buddhism, just give force and to teach and so on. But at the same time, you as Buddhist followers need to me in the sense of Buddha, in the sense of his teaching properly. Instead of that you follow my word, that you regard me, that you respect me highly, it's not also not proper. I think it is available from here, the Pali Sutra, part of Pali Sutra, which is Kalama Sutra, and if you read this properly, it helps because there are some very clear explanations. And you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do that, so many restrictions there. And if you know the meaning and reason properly, then you can do that. So that means whatever we are doing, we need to do, we have to do with understanding, instead of just follow, because it's a great, very blessed, it comes from Buddha, the Buddha is great. This is not enough. We are talking about Buddha, okay, please. We need to prove Buddha's words, and we need to think whether his advices are needful, necessary for me, for benefit of my life, benefit of my whatever, surrounded people and some other peoples, and at the end, large number of peoples. If we find this is useful, then of course we can take it, you can accept it, and you can put it into your practice. So this is what should I say? Design of Buddhism, the structure of Buddhism. To understanding, need to learn, need to understand, need to analyze, and after that, after the analyzation, after you understand properly, after you are seeing and knowing it's really helpful for your life, then apply to practice and to accept this. But instead of that, we all talking about Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Do we know exactly what is the Buddha? Not talking about who is the Buddha, but what is the Buddha or Buddhahood? And what is Dhamma? And Sangha as well. These three, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, supposed to be our refuge. Refuge in the sense of they're supposed to be a protector. So that means they're supposed to help us, protect us. And which way? How they support us? And why I need a supporter? What will happen without having this kind of supporter? Do I have any really serious problem or not? If you don't see and don't find and don't have any problem that we need supporter, so then we don't need that. We don't need to accept the three jewels as our refuge, right? So therefore, occasionally I'm just talking. First, we have to know why I'm taking refuge. This is number one. If we say, because my parents, because my relatives, because my society, they are all belongs to Buddhism or the Buddhist, so therefore I also follow. There's no reason. You are free. You're totally free. We can say there are two kinds of Buddhist practice. One side is the top-down Buddhist practice. Another one is the bottom-up Buddhist practice. Top-down Buddhist practice in the sense of that someone forced you that we have to recite this and that mantras or sadhanas or whatever, and then meditation, everything. This is top-down, because it's some sort of kind of order. Either your parents or your teacher or your other relatives or friends or whatever. But the bottom-up is coming from your side, from from necessary. I need it. It's really important for me. I understood that I need it. Without someone depends on someone's advice or force. For example, if we receive certain tantric big empowerment, and at the beginning, certain passage is so-called unter Eid zwingen. To put under oath, this certain space, certain passage. So that means you need to keep tantric secrecies secretly, otherwise there will be consequent, and then Vajra hell and all these things comes out. And this is a very, very old teaching method. During the Mahasiddha's time, and of course later also as well in Tibet, because Tibet is a very remote area, and people have only interest in, I may say, only interested in Buddha Dhamma. And then if they got this kind of information, they'll be, in fact, one side very happy, other side is they're frightened. If I don't practice properly, so I'll get Vajra hell beings. So Dalai Lama emphasized so much. This is no more up to date. So I noticed very frequently, whenever he gives, of course, including Dalai Lama, no one can change totally structure of Tantra, the empowerment text, rewrite. It's not possible somehow. But he never give any explanation. Just skip here, just read very fast, and not even talking about the put under the oath or whatever. That's very, very wise. Because everybody needs to think their own consequence and their own way, their own need, their own interest. This is the first. Not because someone give me pressure, and now I'm under pressure, so therefore I have to do this. So although I'm so sleepy, so tired, but I have to recite my sadhana. This is not improper. Either your interest, you are doing with great interest, or forget about that. The consequences, this is our own business. Not because you're so-called Vajra teacher or whoever, but they wouldn't join me to Vajra hell or wherever. If I go, I need to go alone. So this is my problem. Dalai Lama advised us very frequently that we all need to be 21st century Buddhist. 21st century Buddhist means Buddhists who have understanding and knowledge of Buddhism, instead of having and keeping only blind faith. So therefore, he advised us that we, without discrimination of race, discrimination of gender, both female and male, both Tibetans and non-Tibetans, those who have interest in Buddhism, any kind of this three subjects: Buddhist science, Buddhist philosophy, or in the sense of the view and the tenets, and Buddhist practice, need to be studied thoroughly on the base of Indian traditional literature. And not only studies, but we should study, how should I say, complete of all Buddhist philosophy subjects, and including, or better to say that we need to get Geshe degrees. Both female and male, lion, and lay person and the ordained person. Among this, likely now we have over 20 non-Geshe-mas, became Geshe-mas. But up to now, the Geshe degree is only more or less reserved for the ordained person. But according to Dalai Lama's idea is without gender, without discrimination of gender and race, everybody, those who are really interested to study thoroughly, they should also get Geshe degrees. Having title or Geshe, it's as I mentioned now, up to now, up to today, some sort of reserved for the ordained. So it is many people if I may say, funny feeling to get a certain lay person, especially female person, to get Geshe. But this is just one need to get used to it, the change of time, because the Geshe title is nothing to do with gender, nothing to do with ordination, but only this only academical title. So we should understand this first. And among the Tibetans, I must say very loudly, among the special, the ordained group, especially elderly, the monks, nuns less, but special monks. In the big monasteries, the authorities hold it the monks. So they give also such a trouble for the Dalai Lama about the opening the gender-free and all these things. But now it comes time is there, so we all need to support. We all need to, or better to say you, my time is more or less finished. So nearly, I reached more or less 80 years, so what should I do now? And all of you are very young, and your future is there, and you need to think about that, and you need to grasp to get the chance. So this is important. At the same time, for the time being, it is because of Vinaya rules, it will be not very appropriate, and then monks monastery, monasteries, monks actually, and nuns for the nunneries, right? And the German language there is just same. So therefore it is important that we Tibetans need to set up more and more special institution where can study lay persons. So now we only have two. One is Varanasi, Institute of High Tibetan Studies, and then Dharamsala. I don't know what the official title is, school of dialectic or something like that. At least it used to be known as school of dialectic. So both of these institutions can provide to these studies. Buddhism subject is very vast, very deep, and we will find so many answers. Whatever we have questions, we can get answer. There's no some sort of a deadline. And so explain a little bit. So now it's finished. We cannot talk about this. We need to follow the Buddha's word. This is not this is not our design. Our design is just asking again, further and further, deeper and deeper. We will get always an answer. So therefore we need to understand. And we should have faith, but this faith should not be based on blind faith. Just thinking Buddha is great. But we have faith through the understanding. So in order to achieve this, we have to learn. So now I come to our subject. Learning in the sense of never mind whatever you would like to learn, any kind of subject. But of course, when we are talking about listening in the sense of learning in the sense of try to understanding, and then on top of that, contemplating, and familiarization. It follows. So there are certain orders because it's more benefit. If we start with the number one, familiarization, and then contemplating and so on, that wouldn't work properly. Because first we must know, for example, if you are cooking, and you must you must learn from someone or from book, how do you cook? If you know this method, so then you need to think which way you are going to do, and which should be first, which should be second, and there are some orders. And so this order needs to be kept in properly. When we are talking about listening, contemplating, and familiarization, we are not talking about the action, but from the, how should I say, connection with your mind, with our mind. So because that always we are mentioning that wisdom arises from learning, wisdom arising from contemplating, that means thinking or thought, and wisdom which arising or which comes from familiarization or meditation or experiences. So everything is only based with your mind, as we are talking mind action. Learning process is based on actually two: learning word and learning meaning. According to our method, our traditional method is first learning word, and after you are memorized or after you are learning this word properly, so then you can go in order to understand the meaning, what you learned, the words. We have definitely very certain method which is no more up to date, but however, the learning word was most crucial. And for example, if I may explain a little bit according to my own experience, I had two teachers when I was a child, and both of them have different kinds of responsibility. One is the responsibility to teach me the word, and another one is more meaning and memorization and rituals. So both of them put me under so pressure. So I need to start right early in the morning. Maybe at that time we don't have watches, but just automatically some, so to say, inner watch. About 4 o'clock in the morning, I need to start to learn memorization, and until sun is shine, and then I'll get breakfast. And immediately after breakfast comes second or other teacher, and then he will drill me to learn to read. Reading is most important in our area, and till noon, only reading, not talking about the meaning, only reading, fast reading. And reading is, of course, firstly, from left to right, and then after I finished, after I could read properly, very fast, and then he asked me to read backward. After I finished that, then this way, upside down. So this we have 30 consonants in the 4 vowels. So which direction someone showed me, I can recognize. So that's the result of drill to read. In the afternoon, again reading and writing. This must be for all of you find very funny, because in the modern time, the learning, reading and writing together. But in our case, never be like that. And there are, if you find some monk in big monasteries who are able to write, they'll be surprised. And many of these are very, I mean, great scholar, no problem, very good. For example, my own teacher, he was one of the highly respected Geshe and abbot of Loseling Monastery, but he couldn't write. When we reached at the Indian border as a refugee, and I tells him how he should write his name. He need to sign. Sign systems. To sign system is not in Tibet. There's no practice. We only use seals, but no signs. After dinner, I have to practice or recite whatever learned memorizations. So I need to recite in the dark room. So maybe till 10 or 11 o'clock. So that was the procedure. So that means learning by word first, and second, then the learning by meaning. So however, learning and contemplation, there are two different things. Learning is always related by others. Someone need to teach me, or from the text or whatever. So therefore I'm totally related. I need to rely on dependent upon the other's power, so-called other power. But the contemplation is whatever I learned, I need to think about it, think on that. So I need to analyze. So now, way of listen is also very, very important. My incomparable teacher, Dagyab Kyabgoen emphasized very frequently, whenever we study, we should not study outward, so-called outward study. So that means whenever we study, we need to apply or connect with our mind, with our mental attitude. Because after all, the purpose of learning is to change my mind. Learning in Buddhist context is only try to change. Oh, how can I change? How can I correct my mental attitude? This is a simple answer. There are so many different kinds of learning methods, such as we just talked about the learning word and meaning, and then analyze about, as I mentioned right now, which way, how, and the time that we need to apply in my mind. And for example, in the monastery, they're debating and so many things, so many long hours explanations. Everything is deal with our mental attitude. If I think this way, so that will be not good to reduce my delusions. And if I understand this way, it helps me to remove my defilements and so on and so forth. So everything is deal with one's own mind position. As you all know, if you study the Lamrim, so all subjects deal with your mental attitude, such as lojong, such as increase in the bodhicitta, such as precious human life, or impermanence, or whatever. This is all the deal with one's own mental attitude, right? So likewise, the study with Buddhist philosophy and high or very advanced texts, very advanced texts, are deeper explanation of Lamrim. Just an example, if we study, while we are studying Lamrim, while we are studying or talking about the Buddhahood and Dhamma and the Four Noble Truths, we are counting, we are describing, but not that deep. And deeper explanation, everything's coming from the big Indian, rooted Indian high literatures. Without having this important root or important Indian original text, original which is translated into Tibetan or English and latterly, so we cannot understand the proper meaning of each of all these things, right? Dagyab Kyabgoen gives us so many teachings. While he gives teachings, he frequently advised us that whatever he explained, especially Lamrim, Lojong, all these things, that we as a disciple need to receive one's own needful practice. Instead of that, if he criticizes about behavior, about our way of wrong practice, so we should not think, oh, he means that person to that person. But we should know, we should understand, oh yeah, he does means me. So I understand that I need to change my position or my state of way of practice. And so, however, we need to get the message without having bad feeling, of course. We need to, we should not to put a limit to learning. So that means, now I'm so old, I don't want to learn. Why should I learn anymore? And so on. This is a big mistake and hindrance. And so forever, I mean, generally speaking, the people think like this. And for example, we have one of our grandchild, when she was, I think, with the age of 4 or 5, and asked to my wife, and she explained that I want to learn more language or whatever, and she said, "You are already 80. Why are you learning more?" But this, I mean, general understanding is okay, but especially if we want to know more deeper meaning of spiritualities, we never keep a border, right? And as much as we can, we should try to learn. If we not try, then nothing will happen at any time. But if we try, we can learn a little bit more and more. So that will also be very, very helpful. Also to passing our time, if I may say it like this. Because if I see, if I visit some old aged home, old people's home, I visit someone that, and many elderly people, of course, some of them not even interested to reading newspapers. They're just waiting for what? This is a problem, another question. And it's just very, very sad. But compared with Tibetan elderly people, so many of them, nothing in mind, it's empty totally. But because they didn't study it, nothing, no knowledge, but they just recite Oman Pema Hung very thoroughly and continuously. So therefore, they have no problem with passing time. Yeah. Sometimes I also try to think followings. When I'm watching TV, there are so many things can see, can understand, such as a film. And so all these films are totally, strictly related with samsara. And non-films are not connected with samsara. Very much with attachment, very much with hatred, jealousy. So therefore, if I see, to understand the action or result, action and result of defilements, it helps me to understand the samsara is meaningless. And one should not follow and deeper and deeper in samsara. And one should try to overcome from the samsaric whatever. It helps me. So therefore, sometimes I also suggest to my audience that in any case, most of us watching TVs and films, and instead of just passing time or just amusing, just try to find some meaning. It's really very helpful. There's really no single film without touched with the defilements. And then we also can see, is it really meaningful is it really needful to fall down in that deep samsaric feeling? Is it good for you or for others to have jealous, to have hatred? Do you feel it's really joyful, enjoyment to have hatred and jealous and all these different aspects of defilements, right? So therefore, through this way, also we can better understanding, not let fall or involve too much in samsaric activities. Among these three, listening, contemplating, and the familiarization, the listening or learning is most crucial for all of us. And second is contemplating. Contemplation is based on the learning. Whatever we learned, we need to put into practice. We need to go on a deeper level. So therefore, wisdom arising from contemplation or thinking or thought. Whatever we learned, whatever we read, whatever we informed, so we need to think on that subject, on this subject, and more from various aspects or perspectives. So that will be great help to our knowledge of listening or learning, keep it firm and unshakable. So there are two examples. One is from the deeper level, deeper perspective, valid inferential reasoning of selflessness. And second, maybe I can show you. And second is inference realizing that sound is impermanent. To understand sound is permanent is more or less superficial level. The other inferential conception or valid inferential reasoning of selflessness. So this is more involved into your meditation. In Buddhist way of analyze or reasoning, there are actually four kinds of reasonings. Number one is analysis of nature or reasoning of nature. Number two is analysis of dependence. Number three is reasoning of performance of function. Number four is reasoning which or that establishes correctness. So I don't want to go further deeper, but just very briefly, explanation. It's analysis of nature. It's nothing. It doesn't go so deeper level because it's talking about this is nature. If I go in the sun, and this hot sun will burn you. This is nature. Something like that. However, it's just more or less related with nature. And then analysis of dependence. Second, this is interdependence. Whatever as we understand, just like here and there. Here and there is always a dependence of the position, right? If while I'm sitting here, and then at the door, I can say, there's one lady, who is standing or whatever. But if I go there, If I reach that door, I cannot say, there's the one, this and that. But I must say here. The here and there, this position has been changed wherever you are. It's dependent. And number 3 is how it's functioning. Such like a karma, such like whatever, many things that how it works. And number 4 is more or less, of course it has to do with karma, but depends on which way you are, which you are discussing. And mainly it's a philosophical debating way. And then the last is wisdom which arises or comes from familiarization or experience and meditation. Experience or meditation is more or less the same. So first you studied or you learned, and second is you contemplated on that subject, that matter, whatever we learned or heard. And the number 3 is we need to more accumulate experiences. Gom is meditation translated from the gom, and gom means to get used to it. Gom is transitive. Gom is hard, not soft, but a little bit softer, is intransitive. So that means through the apply from the concentration or contemplation, so you get used to it. So that means you experienced through your analyzation so many ways, through many ways. So now you are ready to put into practice and think more and more. At the end, you will be totally familiarized all this on this subject. There are quite a number of different kinds of meditation, but mostly well known or normal way is 4 different kinds of meditation. So that means number 1 is from the aspect of manner of meditation, and the second is purpose of meditation. Third is from the position or those who are meditate, and whether he is beginner or advanced, and so on and so forth. Number 4 is from the viewpoint of object. From the manner of meditation, there are 2, Shini Shamatha meditation and emptiness meditation. And from the purpose, maybe number 1. From the manner of meditation, yes, Shini and Lato. Second is the purpose or meaning of meditation. That means there are 4. Number 1 is those qualities which you not obtained in order to obtain. So this more is regular one. And then second is those who are already obtained to increasing, such as meditation on emptiness and bodhicitta. You're continuously keeping to meditate. So therefore, through this act, your quality, or your understanding, or your experience will be increased. Number 3 is for purification. Meditate on such as vajrasattva's practice, such as whatever, and the purpose is in order to purify. Number 4 is to remove defilement, such as meditation on emptiness. Emptiness, yes. The number three, who is meditating? So, who is meditating? Beginners and those who are entered into accumulation path and get into the stage of application, I think so. And then that was number three. Number four is who reached the stage of sight. This is number four, with the realization of emptiness. And number five is who reached the state of meditation. So there are five kinds of persons, so-called five degrees. So last is number five. Number fifth is from the viewpoint of object. So that means relative object and absolute object, two objects. And relative objects means the states just as just about so much or how many. And this is relative level. And absolute level will be the state just as it is. This meaning of absolute. So therefore, one can meditate through meditate on the two different kinds of matters. Either your concentration, either you concentrate or general conventional level, or from it is a real state, the absolute level, which is emptiness. So, however, many of us, or maybe better to say today's time, many people talking about meditation, and whatever, for which purpose are you going to meditate? You can choose, of course, but usually what we're talking about meditation is something meaning that can change our mind. This is the main purpose. So therefore we need to already studied or thorough check beforehand on that subject which or that we studied or learned or heard. So therefore it is extremely necessary. First we need to learn, then we need to think about that, think on that subject, and then later put into practice or put familiarization. So this is the correct way. Instead of that, without having any knowledge to the subject, those supposed to be we are going to meditate. So it will not happen and to reach any useful result. We are supposing bodhicitta is a very great, but we have to know why it's great, what it helps, for whom, how, which way. Without knowing all this, just thinking bodhicitta is baseless, as well as the emptiness. We're talking about the emptiness, but we have to know what is the emptiness. How do you understand emptiness? Especially, the emptiness is certain subject that we cannot achieve, cannot realize within a very short period. Dalai Lama says that he tried to understand, proper understanding or realization of emptiness since over 60 years, but now he only got some good understanding, good position of understanding of emptiness. but without having realization of emptiness. So therefore, however, we need to understand, we need to know that it is very difficult to achieve. We shouldn't know as soon as we got some good teachings and good contemplation, so we may realize emptiness. That's too fast. But to get some good idea, good knowledge about this, it is tremendous. It's a great help for our other practice. I referred quite a number of times to Dalai Lama, but this is not because of Dalai Lama, but because of his very knowledgeable, very interested in a certain subject, and he is very skillful to teach, to explain for us. So therefore I find this very useful. He is very, very much up to date, and the modern way of thinking without lose our traditional teaching, traditional idea. Thank you so much.